town you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome back to Common Folk.
We're back.
We are back.
Surrounded by a bunch of alcohol.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But
Yes,
one thing that I noticed is Andy has a drink, but no one else does.
I was thinking about that right before you hit start, but I didn't want to get yelled at. So I thought
That's right.
I brought some brouhahas.
And you got a special one.
I did.
Banquet. What's going on with that? Why?
The banquet
'cause?
beer. Yeah. You
just feeling it today or what?
I am. I felt a change up. I didn't want a light beer.
You're just going to go heavy?
I am.
Are you
I'm going to enjoy this.
Are you going to share? Or?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Did you want your little your Bambi beer, or do you want the banquet beer?
Oh, and do we all have to
You don't have
give
to.
you a beer? You can get your own.
I will take one. Thank you. How about our guest over here?
Yeah,
You
I'll
want
take
one, buddy?
one, too.
Yeah.
And
all right.
I'll flip him shit. But if you want a Coors Light, you can have.
I drink whatever's free.
FCB, free cold beer. That's for me.
I hear that. So yeah, man. We'll get into it. We're sitting here with a gentleman that I met a few months ago, David Munoz. Got that pronounced properly?
That is
there?
a good last name.
Yep, you did good. Yep,
It is good.
So to give a quick little background, we work at Farm Focused and Stock and Rod with the Corporal Dagan Page Foundation, and we handle all the merchandising for them, which helps them with their fundraising and all their efforts. So not too long ago, they had the golf tournament, which I think was the second. Was it the second one?
Second.
So we weren't doing merchandise for them on year one, but we were this year. So we helped them with the golf tournament, get things organized, handled some of the food at the event, and just kind of helped any way that we could. And while we were there, we got to meet David and his team among a bunch of other folks. So this is the first time Andy's getting to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
And David is with the Bravo Zulu Adventure Group. So what those boys did at the Page golf tournament was they parachuted, and I'm sure you've got specific words that you would use for this that I'm not using properly, but you guys
jumped out of something and flew in the air.
You guys jumped in. There was 4, I think, what would you call them, like flights of golf, and you guys were scheduled to kind of come in at each one with the dog's digging. Where's she at?
Always.
Millie, come on. So at the beginning, the kickoff of each round, weather was tough a little bit early one of the days, but in the end, you guys came in, did your thing. It was super awesome. People were impressed with it. You guys were out on a hole handling an AR-powered golf ball launcher, which was pretty badass. So we, of course, had to go over there and see what was going on with that and then meet you guys. And I got to talking to David and in my mind, realized real quickly a couple different things. One, these guys are doing really cool stuff. And 2, David likes to talk. So I was like, this guy is going to be perfect for a podcast. So was hoping we could get you guys on, and finally things have come together. It's been a number of months. So we're happy to have you, man. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys. The whole event, the Corporal Dagan Page event, LSPC supplies the skydivers, and then which is a local skydiving club here in Weeping Water, Nebraska. They're actually the longest continuous running drop zone in the world. We can't. Every once in a while, someone tries to challenge that, but they like stopped or broke or paused or whatever. We've never paused, and there's a lot of really cool history there. Someone should be writing a book or doing something just on that club. One of the founding members was a special forces guy in Vietnam, which is a whole nother level of military fighting, and won the Medal of Honor. And he's one of the founders of that club. It's a really unique place. And then with our nonprofit, the Corporal Dagan Page, most of us jumped into it last year, and then like you said, this is the second year. So it was easy. We were going to be there, so it was easy for us to be there. And that golf ball launcher was was a very good idea.
That was sweet.
This actually right here. I think it was a small batch helped that decision.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, with their nonprofit.
That thing was a hit, man. What was, rewind real quick, the organization you were talking about, LSP?
Yeah, Lincoln Sport Parachute Club.
Okay.
They were actually really close to Lincoln, just outside of Lincoln when they started. You know, I think they're 65 years or something, 64 years that, been around for a while, but they originally where the dump is right outside of Lincoln. There used to be an airport there. That's where they were until we brought the club brought Browns Airfield, or NE69. So we own the airport. It's a grass strip runway. We got a nice clubhouse, which, as far as skydivers goes, man, owning your own property, not having to have too many rules is probably pretty important.
And that's in Weeping Water.
Yep, Weeping Water, yeah.
Which is crazy. I mean,
that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a small town. Like, folks from around here have heard of Weeping Water. Most folks probably have not heard of it. And I've been down there a ton of different times, and I never even realized that was going on.
Yeah, how big is that, though? Like, how big is the town?
It's a pretty small town. I mean, it's, a handful of streets,
Okay.
2 stoplights,
So, like,
I think.
500.
Or no stoplights, 3 stop signs,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, small area. Also, what's cool to tie in with some of the episodes that folks have listened to, Corey Jones, who we've had on, he does the video production and all that, and he helped with the golf tournament as well. I talked to him the other day because he was out here getting some merch for his company, and he was telling me that he's doing some things with you guys. Going to be doing some jumps too.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, which our nonprofit Bravo Zoo Venture Group, we're really young. This is our second year. First year actually doing stuff. We formed last November, so this is our second year in existence. But first year really doing stuff, and anytime we can barter some services back and forth. So he's going to help us out with some video stuff.
He does such good work.
Oh, dude, that Corporal Dagan Page video was phenomenal. And then we're gonna finish his skydiving license. So
Oh, sweet.
yeah, something we're passionate about, something he's passionate about. So it's an easy.
And he's like a thrill seeker.
Oh yeah. He's a good dude. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It sucks on our end because he's working on some stuff for us, but I had some trouble getting him some video and some other stuff. So this whole adventure has been a pretty big learning curve for us. So
nice. Mm-hmm. So I think what I obviously we wanted to talk about Bravo Zulu Adventure Group today.
Yeah.
A couple of things that you guys are doing, but where I wanted to start was a little bit of your history, so folks can kind of get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? What did you do as a kid? What were your parents like? How did you kind of eventually start getting into these things that you're doing today?
Wait. We said he was a talker. Can we streamline him?
Yeah,
one question at a time? I'm kidding.
I was actually raised by wolves.
Yeah.
Give him some direction.
My mom probably would have liked that.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Grand Island.
Okay.
Nothing crazy going on there. Typical, not a very good student type thing. Didn't really have a plan. I'm always drawn to things that I don't understand or maybe scare me a little bit. And one of the, people are like, what's your biggest fear? Being stranded in the middle of the ocean. Like, people don't realize how vast certain things are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the universe and all that stuff. Neil deGrasse Tyson's someone I watching forever. And man, just think, you're definitely not top of the food chain. Like right here we are, we got knives and guns and we can walk around, kind of do whatever we want. Right?
It's kind of like a false sense of security.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're in the ocean, you're, towards the bottom of the food chain,
You're a minnow.
Yeah, exactly. An octopus can be like, what's this? And just pull you down and you're done,
Yeah, you don't even have fins.
Yeah, exactly.
Or gills, none of it.
Yeah. You can't swim that great. You can float probably for a while, but
Yeah, there's a handful of them like whales. They evolved back to the ocean, which might be their saving grace. I don't know. We'll see, right?
Yeah. Yeah, evolution's it's for as long as we're alive, it's a very small snippet. But so I actually tried to join the Coast Guard. I don't know if they thought I was serious or not, because the recruiter kept on blowing me off, and it's Nebraska, right? So how many people really get from Nebraska? And then coincidentally, one of my friends that lived about 8 blocks from me, his parents were out of town. We got really hammered, and I actually told a story not so long ago. I didn't realize they stopped making Bacardi 151. You guys know that? I don't make it no more.
It was definitely college last time I had it, so I don't know.
Yeah, so that really hurt my feelings when I needed to find me a bottle just for old time's sake. But went to this girl's house, kind of messed some things up in the house. We were drinking Bacardi 151, you know. We're 17 years old at the time. And next day at school, confronted by this guy in a uniform, and he's driving a Cut V, you know, decorated with, you know, one of the nicer ones, not the green painted ones. And I was like, oh, shit. And turns out her dad was a recruiter for the Nebraska Army National Guard. So I was like, uh-oh. He's like, hey, me and you got to have a talk. And I'm like,
oh, boy. Here we go.
Yeah, you know. I broke a few little trinkets and some other things in their house and broke one of their plants. But went to his office, and he's like, does your dad let you drink beer at home? I was like, well, he doesn't hand it to me, but, I mean, if I bring it, you know, he's not like a big deal for him. And so next thing I know, we're sitting there drinking beer and eating pizza. You know, this whole time I thought I was in trouble.
With this guy?
Yeah, with this. We're at the recruiting station.
Oh,
so
shit.
This is early 2000s, right? So there actually was a bar in the Grand Island Armory.
Okay.
When the aviation battalion took it over, and I want to say like 2008 or 2009, they got rid of the damn bar. So, you know, there's always keg of beer or something, you know.
That's why recruitment's down.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
you know,
come on.
This is why. Now we got it.
And when they took that away, we actually took the old pop machine out of there, and all the out of order slots was Busch Light, you know.
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
So, but yeah, we got to talking. A few of my friends actually enlisted, and I didn't even know that. He's like, you know these guys? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm friends with them. He's like, well, they enlisted up. And they showed me the 19 Delta Cav Scat video. You know, they got jet skis and dirt bikes and stuff. And I'm like, all right, let's sign me up.
Oh,
you know?
my gosh. So they totally like hook, line, sinker right there with the beer in the video.
Yeah. I still haven't ever seen any of the. I've seen a dirt bike. Didn't get to ride it, but I've not seen any of those assault jet skis.
Yeah.
So, turns out you can go to basic training, all that stuff when you're 17. So instead of having a regular summer between my junior and senior year, which was probably better for me because I was that kid, you know, and, which didn't work out for me very well because my parents knew a lot of people in the community. So every time I try to like ride on top of my friend's Jeep or, you know, do something crazy, my parents already knew. You know,
So, were you a Gish kid? Were you public?
Northwest.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a Viking.
Yeah,
All
I'm a
right.
Viking.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. It's a great school, and they're actually running into a problem now. I'm sure you're aware of. A lot of people want to go there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's a good problem when people want more of you, or you know, you should.
And the school is really awesome, you know. And I know some teachers there that are still there, and they speak very highly of the school. But if the teachers weren't there, I don't know how I would have graduated. I mean, I failed freshman math. That teacher was probably the only teacher that I had that was really impatient. Then I got this teacher called Mr. Knott. I'm just dyslexic with numbers, man. You know, like that
Hey,
whole
me and
short,
you.
the whole short change trick. I'm like,
This one right here.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, dude, you got $30, and then everyone breaks it down to me. I'm like, nah, dude, you left with more money. And they're like, no, you didn't. You invested more. You know, so it just blows my mind. But this teacher, Mr. Knott, there actually was extremely patient with. There's a small class of us kids that were challenged in math, which a couple of my best friends were in there, and so patient. Dude, we are so mean to that guy. Not as mean as in like, you know, calling him names or whatever, but we took one of his tapes one time, you know, VHS recorder tape, you know, took one of his math tapes and recorded over it, people doing burnouts in the parking lot. And
Oh, my God.
certain things like that, you know, like
fun stuff.
yeah, and I actually wrote an apology letter to him in the school newspaper. I went.
It's like Happy Gilmore style.
Yeah, I mean,
You should apologize to everybody.
Yeah, I went to Pathfinder school in the military. You know, I did the whole basic training thing between my junior and senior high school. Graduated in December. I was already deploying for Iraq, so basically, you know, I had a few months off. You know, I did my initial entry training after that. Came back, had like 2 months, and was already working on heading overseas. I come back. I tried to switch units and stuff like that because I got to go to a version of sniper school. It was right when they were kind of switching through urban sniping. and your classic stalking stuff. So it wasn't we went through all the shooting stuff. We didn't do any of the urban or the stalking out in the fields. We did more of the kind of urban stuff. We still got a certificate, but there's some controversy, and
Sure.
we didn't go through the full course or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I got back from Iraq, which was a crazy deployment, podcasts are a pretty big thing. If you listen to Jocko, he talks a lot about when he was in Ramadi. I've actually met 99.9% sure I was in the same room and met Jocko and went on some missions with him.
Yeah.
I'd love to sit down and talk to him because he talks about us being over there because we were made up of all National Guard units over there in Ramadi. And it was like the Wild Wild West. It's so bad over there when we were there.
I read that book. Were you one of the groups that he spoke highly of?
Yeah.
I'd have to assume so, right?
Yeah. So we actually did.
Because he didn't speak highly of everybody.
Yeah. So we were a very strange. Nebraska's, as far as the National Guard goes, is an incredible force. We're always top of a lot of things. And that includes some of our units. So we were actually handpicked. 64 people were handpicked for deployment to Ramadi. The rest was slated to go to Baghdad later on. But we went there and we kind of had our own. Cav Scouts are kind of their own breed. Like, we only got 1 day off during our train up because that 1 day, was a high percentage someone's going to do something stupid and you lose somebody,
Okay. Yeah.
drinking and like we did. We went to the ocean one time and they're like, yeah, don't go past those buoys on the jet ski. Dude, we went so far out you couldn't even see the land no more, And so things like that, right? And getting in drink, the drinking's never a good thing if you're trying to keep everyone together.
Sure, yeah.
We had buses and stuff, so it wasn't so bad. But they had hands selected us, and then when we were over there too, we were just kicking ass, taking names. We were immediately paired up with a Marine EOD. There's actually this really famous photo. This gunnery sergeant, he's got no pants on, and he's got a finger up, and he's flipping off the Taliban that just tried to blow him up. Mm-hmm. A reporter for the Omaha World-Herald took that picture, actually. They were embedded with us. Bundy, and I'm spacing off the other guy, Marty Bundy, and I can't remember the writer. It'll come to me, but they almost died like a couple different times, too. They're completely oblivious to the combat situation.
And they were with you guys because you guys were the Nebraska unit.
Yeah, they actually came to Iraq and stayed with us. Those guys are super awesome. Oh, gosh, it really hurts my feelings. I can't remember the writer's name, but he moved. I think he's in Michigan or Idaho or something now, but Marty's still in town here. But yeah, it was incredible for those guys and they got to see like the raw everything, like even some of these books like that one, it tells the story, but it doesn't tell all the stuff,
well,
in between.
That book by Jocko that you referenced, that you guys were referenced in, that was called Extreme Discipline, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. It's one of those.
I think it was. And it was constructed in a really cool way. I really enjoyed it because he would go through one of your guys' missions, or sortie if you're Air Force, and then he would walk through that, and then he would step it back and like view it through a business perspective.
Well, and what was he doing? What was his position?
He was a SEAL team leader.
SEAL. Oh, okay.
And so they would throw him teams from the Army or the Guard and say, make this happen. And he's like, well, how am I supposed to make this happen? Then he'd walk you through that process on each chapter and each mission. It's really cool.
It's interesting, too. Is it, it's extreme ownership, right?
Extreme ownership,
yeah,
for
sure. Because all you, like you said, podcasts and all this kind of stuff, I mean, we listen to all of them. You hear all these guys talk that are, former military guys or whatever it is they're doing. And all you ever hear about is, like, the SEALs, I mean, primarily.
Yeah.
The Green Berets, like, all these super secret.
Yeah, because they're like such badass. Like,
right.
But there's other people that are badass too.
And Andy, and with Andy reading that book, like you were talking about, you guys are Army National Guard, right? That's what you were in, and you guys are sent to support what the SEALs are organizing. I guess is that the way it is?
Well, it was funny because we set up a couple sniper missions and. We were overlooking like this taxi cab stand, where a lot of business would take place, good and bad. And I'm like, oh gosh, dang, that dude looks American, He looks like a, football player, or something, like linebacker or someone. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, look at him, And we had taken over this gal's house. Her husband was away doing something. Turns out that house was they were part of the Taliban, you know. We found that out later. But, you know, we're sitting there observing this taxi cab stand, and I kept on seeing this, you know, these taxi cabs. I'm like, God, that dude looks like just an NFL linebacker. It was, you know, I don't know for sure, but when we went to the SEAL compound, some of those taxi cabs were sitting in there line.
Nice,
I'm like,
yeah.
Sure. There you go.
Jeez.
Yeah.
sneaky guys. But
You're not seeing
Yeah.
NFL linebackers in Afghanistan, right?
exactly.
I mean, they're
Driving
not
Yeah.
taxis.
yeah.
Right.
And,
built that way.
but yeah, it was a pretty incredible thing because we kind of made a name for ourselves, you know,
Yeah.
like even with the EOD techs, you know, they were losing EOD techs pretty often. We did lose one, but compared to previous years, you know, that was pretty big deal just in numbers wise. And it sucks. None of us really wanted to come home because we were so worried about them. And then they lost like 4 guys after we had left. So that, I mean, that's, you know, the survivor guilt is pretty big when we really kind of think about those things. But
How long were you there?
the total deployment was 18 months, but we were boots on ground in Iraq 1 year and 22 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, but yeah, we made a name for ourselves, and these guys are like, oh, you know, these guys can run support for us, because a lot of times they would hit these buildings or go into these towns, and people would run away, and you can't really find them. So, you know, the first time they just stuck us out on the perimeter, you know, and some Rangers and stuff were in there, and we took it serious, and they saw that, and they're like, oh man, we got another one. So we did a couple more missions, and one of them actually entailed being basically their backup, which was pretty cool. They didn't need us, but you know, we loaded up on Navy helicopters, and we're flying around for 2 hours, and if shit hit the fan, we were gonna land and fight with these guys.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah. The firefights are real.
Yeah. And so yeah, it was really cool. And you know, he talks about it in the book, and then even on some of his podcasts. And one of the things, you know, people give a lot of shit to the National Guard, and I get it. You know, it's a friendly type of thing. But even like Jocko says, is, you know, we had a master welder with us. You know, this was late 2004, early 2005. And the IED thing was just ramping up, and they didn't really have a bunch of up-armored Humvees, but they had extra armor. Man, we were welding and customizing stuff. This guy worked at Case New Holland in Grand Island.
Yeah.
As a welder.
Yeah.
Dude, he was welding up everything and stuff. Just the coolest dude, you know. And,
That's crazy.
you know, we had teachers. We had all sorts of stuff. So, like, even my lieutenant, Matt Misfelt, he owns Patriot Homebrew Supply out in Elkhorn. He mapped out everything. You know, super nerd, but super good guy. Like, missions and op tempo and where we were getting hit, and so like we had data to like, oh man, this is kind of a crazy area, you know. And so all that stuff comes into play when you get an active duty unit. They're just a soldier, you know. So we can kind of play to those strengths and weaknesses.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And you think about
Yeah, it
like
is.
just all those expertise that those folks
Yeah.
are bringing to it.
Yeah.
That welding thing, that's such an interesting story. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you don't think about, like, I wouldn't think about that. I've never been there. I don't know what it's like. I imagine, you know, you guys are outfitted with everything you need, and it's all set up, and everything's good to go. But no, the reality is you're there, and you start realizing, hey, this ain't working.
Yeah.
And we've
Yep.
got a guy here who can start customizing some shit. Let's get this rolling, get that rolling. He does. It starts saving
Yep.
lives. It starts giving you the leg up. Like, that's so wild.
So
Yeah.
Jocko never said like, who has a liberal arts degree?
Yeah.
Who here?
Yeah.
But the welder dude that worked at Case IH there on the outskirts of town, he was a public guy, right?
Zolkowski, I think was his last name.
Or was he a Northwest guy too?
I don't know.
Ah.
I think he grew up.
I'm just
not
giving
sure,
you a
yeah.
bad time. It's,
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
you might have been.
It's kind of fun.
but yeah, and like you said, you know, even when we were working with the SEALs and stuff, they gave us some things, you know, because
Sure.
this is still early on, kind of in the war, and you were just, you know, all the military stuff's one size fits all, you know, and you know, we had some guys get killed, you know, by not having anything right here, so then they issued us side plates, you know.
That was in the book, I think.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so there's all, you know, so they issue these things that just kind of you know, and it don't really, I mean, those things were heavy as hell. And
Sure.
I always had, I mean, even just today, if you were like, hey, let's go cook burgers or something, you know, I'm going to bring half my kitchen, you know, all the seasonings, all the stuff, you know, like I actually forgot glasses, you know, for the bourbon, but I had it all set out, and I was kind of in a hurry getting out of the house, so I wouldn't be late. But I think I kind of used some of that because I had a 203 and an M4 than my sniper rifle, so I always had all this stuff, you know, way more magazines. Their truck was filled with crap, everywhere we went, extra everything, which is why now my lower back's all messed up. But yeah, running out of something and needing something was like a big fear of mine.
Oh yeah.
And they gave us all this extra stuff. And man, they made it mandatory for a little while, and then they're like, well, soldiers are going to do whatever they want anyway. So we actually took a lot of that stuff off. Throat protectors. We had one guy almost lose his family jewels. They even after a piece of shrapnel hit him, and he was still worried he was going to lose them. They were turning purple and all sorts of stuff.
Shoot.
So some people put the groin protector back on, but for a little while there, we had 2 Grand Island Police Department officers with us as well, too. And they got us some of that soft body armor, so we could wear just plate carriers. Oh man, we got in so much trouble for wearing just plate carriers. Like, oh, we got soft armor underneath, and they didn't care. So we, some of the guys kind of put their kit. If someone was going to see them, they had a regular kit, and then they had their other kit. And now today you go anywhere, it's all that type of stuff. All these, Surefires had just came out. They're the hard plastic. They didn't even have metal ones yet. Stuff like that. ACOGs weren't really a big thing yet, is all the...
So the outfit
red
now, or the uniform now, is different with all the...
Oh, yeah. There's so much...
It's a lot lighter,
the technology, yeah,
it's better.
Technology is insane now. I would honestly hate to be fighting a war now, because drones are a thing now.
Oh, yeah.
That has to be some scary shit,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
just even watching some of the videos of what's going on now, they're just tooling around with drones,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Gamers are the new elite warriors.
Yeah, exactly.
They're really good at it.
So what do you think you were carrying, like 30 pounds? 20?
About 150, 180 pounds on a game. Oh, yeah.
Not.
Oh, yeah. Just the plate
Who can do that?
Just the plate with no equipment on it was about, I think it was pushing 80 pounds. Yeah. And then plus,
That's carrying Ben around.
Yeah.
Not now. That's
Yeah.
carrying Andy
Get it
around.
in, yeah.
There's some of those memes, like where
About
like,
160
you don't know what it's
over
like
here.
to take a bra off at the end of the day, and then it's a soldier, taking off his vest.
What? I've never heard that.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you heard that's that much? Carrying that much?
I
That's
did not
insane.
know the weight. I mean, I definitely expected it to be more than 20 or 30, but I didn't expect it to be that high.
And the plates now are they weigh a little less, but our plates were super thick with the side plates on.
And then that's like an 8-hour day.
Yeah, I mean sometimes they're 2-3 hours days. Like I got this really great story. We did a lot of missions with Anglo teams where they're specifically trying to get certain guys that were laying IEDs or troubled areas they'd watch out. And these guys have air assets and all this other stuff. So they're like, hey, we need a couple snipers. You guys want to go on this mission? I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And they're like, all right, we'll pick you up at 10 o'clock at night. We'll go out there. We're going to spend a couple days out there. We might not go until the next night just to kind of throw them off that we're not just driving out there or whatever. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And then so I eat some dinner chow. And this is Yahoo Messenger. That's what we had, So I go to the internet lounge, get on Yahoo Messenger, and we actually were smart because we're Cab Scouts. We had brought our own internet system with us.
Oh.
So we contacted a guy in Italy, like, what do we need to have internet over there? He's like, oh, buy this stuff. Every once in a while I'd be down, so it just happened to be down that day. The guy was down for maintenance or whatever. So I had to go to the internet lounge, and I opened up Yahoo Messenger. My girlfriend at the time was like, I got to tell you something. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, no.
So she breaks up with me, and right as she breaks up with me, my driver came in. He's like, hey, dude, you're going right now. They're going right now, dude. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I had all my stuff ready.
Yeah.
I didn't even get a sign out of Yahoo Messenger. I'm glad no one kind of, spoofed it or whatever, But I go running out there, pulling the truck, and, it's kind of this little base, and they got like a little canteen there, have a chow hall or whatever. So I only brought 2 liters of water and 2 Snickers bars because I'll just grab a bunch of food there and I'll be good. So I jump in the truck. We go out there. We're like, hey, we're going to sneak in tonight. And I'm like, oh, shoot, okay. And so I try to go in the little canteen thing. They didn't have shit in there because there are trucks and stuff. We're getting hit by IEDs. So I go out to this place, and we're only supposed to spend like a day out there. And we ended up spending 3 days out there. And all I had was 2 liters of water.
Oh,
Snickers
2
bar.
Snickers.
My girlfriend just broke up with me. And Yeah, so I was like, man, the mental anguish and some of that stuff, you know.
That's wild.
And
man.
you're carrying 150 on you.
Yeah, it's insane. And we actually would carry enough that you can move in the turret. That's how we figured, you know, because like you have so much stuff when you're in the turret. Because I was supposed to be the assistant gunner, I was basically the gunner, but you got so much stuff, and you know you can't really, you just turn around with the turret, you know, like. We were in a firefight one time, and we'd switched to, I had a Mark 19 and a 240 Bravo, which shoots 308 machine gun basically. And you can't fit the ammo cans of your ammo to reload through the turret, because I mean we have so much stuff on, your stuff's hitting. Like a lot of us took our pistols off our legs and put them up here as well too. And this was before they had modular pouches, so we kind of modified like a pistol pouch or a ammo pouch to hold them. And so you had to, like, in the middle of firefights, you had to, like, jump out of the truck, reach down, grab the ammo box, throw it up.
Gosh.
Yeah. My mom would probably kill me if she's seen some of the stuff that we had, which was great that we didn't have GoPros back then, because, like, not that we broke the rules, but we had our own rules, you know.
Yeah, you had to modify. You had
Yeah.
to do what works.
Like, coalition speed limit was 35 miles an hour. There's no way you're going to get hit by all the IEDs, you know. So we went 71 miles an hour because that's as fast as our Humvees would go, you know. And we got yelled at a couple times for that stuff. But
I'd want to get to where I'm going.
yeah, exactly.
Pretty quick,
I was
too.
like, whoever made that rule needs to come ride with it. Because in Ramadi, you go downtown Ramadi, the name of the game is, you know, how many IEDs can you not get hit by, right? Because they're just poof, poof, you know, just blow those suckers up all the time. We got hit by a handful of them. Our other platoons got guys injured by them quite often. And at some point, actually, the MPs were in charge of kind of the taking people to Corregidor, which is a base at the end of Ramadi. And they had lost so many people, they were basically not combat effective no more. So we were actually the only ones allowed towards the middle and end of our deployments to take people up and down that thing.
Yeah, good rule. Only go 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So you take all that into account, and you know, and eventually that deployment was over. What happens after that? I mean, where do you go from there?
Yeah, so this actually comes in where I told you I do full circle. So that apology letter to my math teacher. Ended up joining a rigger unit. I tried to go to the sniper unit to Lurs, but like most units like that, if they don't know you, they're not going to let you in, right? They're not going to taint their pool of excellent soldiers by just some random dude coming in, you know. Which turned out I ended up becoming really good friends with all these guys later on anyways. So basically I didn't have a home to go to, and they had this rigger unit, and they're like, well, you're going to go be a rigger.
What's a rigger?
Yeah.
Parachute rigger. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so a parachute rigger is a 92 Romeo in the Army. The aerial delivery specialist is technically what it's called.
So you're just like you're on a plane, or you're helping people get in their suits? Wait, I don't get it.
So we pack the parachutes that you would put on to jump out.
Okay, okay.
Or
Gotcha.
rig loads to be airdropped in. Yeah, so
Okay.
a lot of the stuff in Afghanistan, a lot of those places were so out there. They used low-cost, low-altitude parachutes that they can just throw out, and then they just burn them, you know, afterwards. A lot of them basically got their supplies that way. And that stuff's packed up by parachute riggers, you know. Anything from food, water, supplies to equipment, like even, you know, earth-moving equipment, 42,000 pounds or less, you know, we'll throw it out on a parachute.
Wow.
So Humvees, all sorts of things. But the big mission is the airborne dropping paratroopers and stuff.
So to get this job, you have to know how to jump too?
Yeah, so to be a parachute rigger, which why I didn't complain too much, is you have to go to airborne school.
You do.
The one thing about being a rigger is before you can touch it, you have to be qualified or, you know, have experience with it. So we took full advantage of that. So I went to airborne school, went to air assault school because we touch the equipment used for swing load. Joint drop air load inspector. So when you rig up these, you know, 42,000 pounds or less, you know, there's a lot that goes with it. So that's a whole nother course. Jump master school, and then Pathfinder school. And that's the one where I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention to math.
Teacher wasn't lying.
Yeah. I'll admit this. Like, I never did the square root on a calculator or the Pythagorean until I was in that school, right? So I'm like 25 or 26, and I couldn't figure out how they're, you know, and I'm not saying too much because I'm like, oh shit, you know, I'm screwed here. And I was like, I had to raise my hand. I was like, hey, I can't get the same answers in one. I've never used this square root button before in my calculator. And the instructor just looks at me, he's like, dude, you're not going to make it, and walks off. I'm like, oh, shit, dude.
Was that on a TI-81 or TI-84?
I still have it. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Damn thing.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that calculator forever. But, and it really hurt because, like, they say the whole course is hard, and I was sailing through it pretty good, 96, 98 scores. How to calculate an air assault serial. Basically, Pathfinders, if you're going to come in and assault someone with helicopters, we'll tell you when to load, when to take off, when to come back. Like, we can figure all this out. So that was the first test, and that wasn't so bad, right? You have like a planning load, flight time, coming back. Like, I was like, oh, this makes sense. This ain't going to be so bad. And then there's just like a general knowledge test, and then there's sling load, which that was easy for me because it was parachute equipment essentially.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I already know this, Got that on the pre-test. But then we go to basically calculating the drop zones, and I had to stay up to 2-3 o'clock in the morning just going over. I was like, I don't have enough time to learn how to do the Pythagorean theorem or the square root. So the Army's a very simple mistress, right? Like 8th grade reading level, and they pretty much give you every scenario you're going to get on a test because we're a little lazy, right? So they were probably recycling tests and all sorts of stuff. That's what I was planning on. So I went through every scenario. Basically, I just remembered how to get answers.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was brutal. So come test day, I sailed through the test. I'm like, dude, I got this, man. This is going to be awesome. And I actually failed one portion of it, which means I had to retest the whole test. They used to actually do it if you fail one portion or category of the test, you only go back and take that. Well, they changed it.
Oh, shit.
So if you fail one section, you just got to take the whole damn test, and you get a little less time, too. So I'm like, oh, shit. But I failed it because your calculations change if the aircraft are using GPS or not using GPS.
Oh.
Yeah, and they were using GPS, and I calculated without GPS. I missed that small detail, which makes a big difference when you're calculating this stuff. So they got me fair and square, but on the retest, I passed, and same thing, sailed through the test. I was like, well, I'm going home because I felt the same,
Cramming works, kids. You can memorize more than you think. Not for very long, but go ahead, cram it. Yep.
It's so much information. It's a brain dump. And one thing about what makes Pathfinder School so hard, it's not multiple choice. It's fill in the blank. And you have to use proper nomenclature. So, like, there's a castellated nut. If you say inverted castellated nut, that's wrong because it's not an inverted castellated nut because that's what you just called it. It's a castellated nut that's inverted.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah. Hey. It's very specific.
Fail me now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make it.
If you misspell something, they would count that.
Totally out.
Oh, that was me, too. I was like...
You're screwed.
Yeah.
I'm out. Ben's looking at me like, oh, God.
Kind of like that. I kind of appreciate that, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think your guy, Neil Tyson DeGrasse, right? He's like one of the big failures in our educational system is we're just teaching people how to take tests. We're not teaching people how to learn something.
Yeah, true.
So the Army what you're doing there is more like, no, you need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Don't guess between A, B, or C, or deduct. No, figure it out.
Yeah, that the whole mission is, and there's what we call badge protecting in Jump Master and Pathfinder schools at Fort Benning. It's now named Fort Monroe or Moore. Yeah, I think Moore. Is they're there to help you, but not really. Like you either going to get it or you don't, and there's a reason for it too. And I know a lot of people will get upset with like, oh, they should be there. They're your battle buddy. They're really not. Because they're not going to be if you're out in the field somewhere and you got to solve a problem. They're
Yeah.
If you're the only Pathfinder, there's not you're not getting any help out there either. So I kind of believe in some of their things that they do. There's some things soldiers do that I think are just a little bit too much. But making it hard, making people earn stuff is something that I'm always with. But when I got back from school, I felt like such an asshole, if I can say that on the air here. So I wrote up a long apology to my school teacher, and I didn't send it to him because I couldn't figure out how to get a hold of him. I sent it to the newspaper. He'd retired already, so I sent it to the Grand Island Independent there. I was like, oh, he'll see it. Oh, man, everyone's...
That's so cool, though, that you did that. Obviously, that was weighing on your heart for a while.
Yeah, there's actually a lot. even coming back from Iraq, even I started to do Big Brothers Big Sisters. It just, a lot of this stuff puts things into perspective for you. Like, I was like, dude, my dad and mom, we were actually just talking about it this last Thanksgiving. Like, my dad's been super great hunting, fishing, doing cool stuff. Like, it's always been cool with me. And I earned was making my own money at like 8 years old, helping my uncle on the farm and doing paper out. And his rule was basically like, don't bring the cops home, man. You buy your own stuff, you wreck it, shit, whatever, And, my mom had a little bit different perspective on that.
Some of us moms do.
It's good to have the balance.
Yeah. And, and like even growing up when my dad would go on hunting trips that I couldn't go on, like big hunt trips that he'd go deer hunting, that's when we'd always go eat Chinese food or something because my dad's like meat and potatoes type of guy only, so. And I have all these great memories of, both my mom and my dad and trips and going on things.
Can you look something up there?
Yeah.
I think you're falling victim to the Dunning-Kruger effect, I think is what it's called. The Dunning-Kruger, where the more you are aware of something, the more you understand you don't know shit.
Yeah.
You think, oh, I don't need math. And then you see this little part, trying to join this force or that, where no, you need to know math.
Yeah.
It's going to come in, you're going to have it to survive. And then you figure out, wow, not only do I not know math, I don't know shit about math.
Yeah.
And it would really help if I'd have listened to my middle school teacher. Instead we gave him we videotaped over his VHSs that he was trying to teach us with.
I still have that VHS tape.
Do you?
That was the closest I've ever got to expelled from high school. He passed away, but the assistant principal, he was so cool. Like, he knew we had, because a lot of us would go shoot geese or something in the mornings, and ducks. So he knew we had shotguns in our truck.
Right. Yeah.
And he knew that he could see the beer and stuff. And he'd always, at that time we were chewing and smoking. And sometimes we get caught in class, chewing. He'd write us passes to leave school.
Yeah.
And we'd go off the school property and do, chew or whatever and then come back. Like, he was such a cool guy.
I'm pretty sure he would have fit in pretty well with us here too, and your friends. Sounds like the same stuff.
He couldn't save us from that because we were encouraging people to do burnouts and stuff.
Well, there's a line.
Yeah. Well, it chipped a couple students' windshields or something like that. So that's kind of, and I can't even remember the principals. It's the only time I actually met the real principal. And I mean, he was yelling. He's like, I want you to crucify these, all these. Because prior to that, we were doing burnouts in our own vehicles, and we couldn't park on the school grounds. A kid in my class lived right across the street, though, so we're like,
there we go.
I was like, Brian, we're going to come park in your driveway, And when we got we couldn't park, right? Well, before we'd leave and stuff, we had a little PA speaker, so we'd play, "We're not gonna take it." And I was like, "You didn't say we couldn't drive through the parking lot." We're not parking. We're making a couple rounds, and then we'll go park.
Then you put you put their nose in a little bit with some Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
You know what though? You take that mentality of like just figuring out the little loopholes and just like doing your thing and. Yeah, being a little badass, but not killing anybody.
Yeah,
I mean, you're out, and that when you look at the story you told about, when you're overseas, that's the kind of mentality that you actually need. You have to figure out those little loopholes. You have to figure out what the moves are you need to make to survive. You have to figure out how to have a little fun sometimes too.
Was that right with that? Is it the Dunning-Kruger?
The first line says, in which people with limited competence in a particular domain overestimate their abilities.
Yeah. And then the closer you get to an expert, the more you view yourself as being a dummy.
Yeah.
So you have all these experts saying, "Oh, I don't know shit," and they believe it because they actually know what they don't know.
Yeah.
But an idiot, it's like, "Oh, I can figure that out."
I know all of it.
Yeah.
So.
One of the, in every organization, and with Bravo Zulu, we got a really great group of guys here that started this thing. And, we kind of each had our own dynamic, and I'm really good at shooting my mouth off, So we did the thing with Bottles and Barrels. They had a Oktoberfest where they had all the local breweries bring in their fall beers, their Oktoberfest beers. And then we were supposed to jump that day. We had aircraft issues, so we couldn't get out. And then the following week, we did a drawing. If you entered in, it's $20 to try all the beers for free, but you also got a ticket to do a tandem.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I should have done that.
So, yeah, some people came in, didn't even want to drink beer. They just drew a ticket for a tandem. And when we did this, we excuse me, we actually met Jimmy, the owner, and, we're doing the same thing here. And as we're indulging, some spirits and, because he's got it's a great store. It's off of, it's called Bottles and Barrels, but he puts out really great whiskey every Wednesday for you to try. But like expensive bottles too, like a $600 bottle of whiskey he'll put out there, I mean, it's going to be like $20 to try it, but it's been great for me because I don't trust people's palates when it comes to bourbon. I've learned in the last couple of years, especially since we've been working with Horse Soldier here, has kind of gotten me into bourbon, but we do bourbon raffles for Bravo Zulu. And some of these really sought after bourbons, you try them, you're like, shit, you paid $430 for that? That's pretty,
Right on. Right on.
So I want to get into the Bravo Zulu thing.
Yeah, I want to know.
But first, I want to wrap up, your background and as we came up. So you got back home from school, you put the letter out to the teacher. Is there anything else that you see as significant in that window between then and when you start getting into Bravo Zulu? Yeah.
So, being a parachute rigger kind of launched me into a lot of the things that I'm doing today. I was actually doing a lot of contracts for the Navy SEALs and some other special forces and some civilian contracts, which actually got me into skydiving because I had all the certificates from Fort Lee, Virginia, which is where home of the quartermaster, which the parachute rigger school is there. And so I was qualified to do all the stuff on the military side. And they're like, hey, this one contract's like $500 a day, but you got to have your civilian stuff too. So I became a civilian parachute rigger, which I started my parachute rigging business. And then also started skydiving. So that's how I met actually Sean Burdess and Dylan. And Dylan actually, he was a paratrooper and we had a round canopy competition. That's how we met us. That's how we started skydiving. So yeah, full circle is pretty much being a parachute rigger with the military has kind of brought me to exactly what I'm doing today and a lot of what we're doing with Bravo Zulu.
Nice. So that brings us to that point. So before we get into that, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll start digging into Bravo Zulu.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds good.